Command has been given. Crank him up.
Let's go. When I say I don't know, I don't know.
Let's go, baby.
Now, the Morning Drive.
Buckle up, everybody.
A little bit of this and a little bit of that.
It's a game changer.
I listen to you guys every single day on my way to work.
Well, again, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on the radio.
You guys are amazing.
What are you doing over there?
I'm going to the top.
The Morning Drive.
To the bat balls.
Welcome into a Friday edition of the Morning Drive here on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90. Hey, everybody, Pete Pistone here at the Paisan Palace in Chicago. Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic in for the Bagman today. Jordan is at PRN Worldwide Headquarters in Concord, North Carolina. We've got Sammy and Davey in the Beltway Bureau in our nation's capital. We welcome everybody into our final day of the work week here on TMD. Jordan, and welcome into TMD, pal. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Pete. Always a pleasure, and it's I always have a great time joining you for 4 hours when I get the opportunity. And honestly, this is a great week to do it because there's so much to talk about, and I'm looking forward to the weekend as well, as we have two unique races on the schedule this weekend.
Yeah, as Bagman would say, son, what a week we have had. You're right about that. Always good to have you in here. Got a good weekend. I will be heading to Gateway, well, Worldwide Technology Raceway.
It's Gateway.
I'll head down to St. Louis. I'll just leave it there after the show. I'll be down there for the weekend. Baggy is winging. Well, he flew to Portland yesterday, so he's there today. He'll be on the MRN broadcast tomorrow that we'll have here. So we're all over the place. But other than that, it's been a pretty good week, busy week, lots going on. And I know you have been all over the place here. How was your week from start to finish? Pretty busy, I would imagine.
It was long. The rain delay postponement at Charlotte kind of threw a monkey wrench into things, obviously, with the race on Monday, and then that kind of went on into the evening and everything, and then obviously the news with Chase Elliott and then Chase Briscoe. Bad week for the Chases.
Yes.
And so it's been eventful for sure. Lots to talk about, and it's a little bit, it's unfortunate we're talking about the Chase stuff, and that's going to dominate the headlines and probably the conversations today, and probably has dominated the conversation for you guys, is because we're coming off of really a fantastic race at Charlotte, where it does feel like the racing action has been overshadowed a little bit. But that's the news, and it's going to be interesting. And how, for in both aspects of what this means and the fallout is going to be something that we're going to be talking about for a while now. And so it has been a busy week for sure. And then obviously, I wrote something on The Athletic this week about, silly season is starting to get ramped up a little bit, and things are starting to kind of definitely not falling into place, though we kind of have a little bit of clarity on one situation, but they're starting to kind of see who's doing what or kind of positioning themselves for what opportunity. So lots going on right now in the NASCAR world, and it's going to be a busy stretch here for really, I think, honestly, probably the rest of the year.
Well, I read your piece, and I want to get to that about what we're going to be doing next year, and some things are falling into place, some things are not. And the other part of it, and I told you before we came on the air, on Wednesday we had an event here in Chicago. We're less than a month away now from this street circuit race we're going to have here. And I'm glad I'm glad that event wasn't today, tomorrow, or Sunday, because we got a Taylor Swift concert at Soldier Field, Jordan. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the reason I bring it up is I know there's a lot of consternation by some about, well, we got to shut down city streets, and how are we going to do this with traffic flow? They're expecting 65,000 people for 3 nights for Taylor Swift. And granted, it's inside Soldier Field, which is a stadium that is used to having big events. But they had, even just for that, already on Wednesday, street closures, parking regulations, and all that kind of stuff just around that. So this city knows how to put on big events. I said this yesterday. We got a lot of big ones coming up here, but the enthusiasm that I gathered on Wednesday, and we had the NBC crew in town, lots of on-air people. Dale Jr. was here, AJ Allmendinger was here. The enthusiasm seems to be building, and I know that's something you and I talked about. You're looking forward to racing on the streets of a city like Chicago, aren't you?
I think it's a great opportunity for NASCAR, and I can understand why there's some consternation among fans, but I think you have to look at it two different ways. One, this is an event. This is something that you circle on the calendar and say, this is going to be really cool. They've got 4 major concerts. You're racing in the 3rd largest media market in the United States. This is a race that when they announced it, ever since then, people have been talking about it. And in the beginning of the year, you circle on your calendar. This has never been done before in NASCAR history. This is a very, very big deal. And you have a great opportunity before you to bring in new fans and to bring racing to them. And I know that's a cliche, and I know that's something that NASCAR says a lot, but it's true. It is absolutely true. And when I look at the schedule, and you've got 36 points races plus 2 exhibition races, it's okay to kind of be outside the box, once or twice a year. Not every race has to be kind of the tried and true tradition of being on a purposely built oval track or a road course. It's okay to, hey, we're going to build a racetrack inside of a stadium. And you know what? We're going to try a downtown street course race. You know what? It may fail. It may suck. But we are going to try it. To at least say we did it. And to say, instead of speculating and say, oh, what would that be like? Or could we do this? Let's go try it. And, again, when you have so much flexibility in your schedule, it's okay to be different. And so I applaud NASCAR for that. Now, is the race itself, what's that going to be like? I don't know. I've got some reservations about that. I may be wrong. But it's a street course race. And we know what street course racing is like. We've seen it in IndyCar. We saw it in Formula One this past weekend in Monaco. All the glitz and glamour of Monaco and what that represented, fantastic. Well, guess what happened on Sunday when the green flag dropped? Nothing.
Rough.
Like, it was a parade.
Yeah.
And so who knows what it's going to be like? Maybe it's a great race. Maybe it's not. But at least it's an event. It gets people exciting. And if it's something that people are going to, go towards and circle on their account and say, you know what, I want to go there next year because this looks like a cool place to be, then you know what? That's a success to me.
Well, my take, and I've been around this a long time, and you have as well, covering the sport, is whenever you do something new, it's human nature to have questions and to have concerns. But think about this. In the last few years, NASCAR built a racetrack inside the LA Memorial Coliseum. People were like, how are you going to do that? That's going to be awful. 2 years in a row, I think it's been pretty good. We're going to put dirt on Bristol. Whether or not you think that's a good or bad idea, I'm a little bit torn on it. But the fact that it did something like that turned out to be, for a lot of folks, pretty good. Let's build a Roval inside Charlotte Motor Speedway. What are you talking about? That's the craziest idea I've ever heard in my life, right? That's turned out to be a pretty interesting race, and people look forward to that. I think it's the same idea here. There's always going to be the doubters out there. That's sort of human nature. Quite honestly, I think a lot of the NASCAR world fits into that category from time to time. But I think, to me, if you don't try something, and granted, the other side of it is I have a little bit of a vested interest. I'm a proud Chicagoan. I want this to go well because I want my city to be in the spotlight. And I got to tell you something. I saw some of the camera angles that NBC is going to have. It's going to be a love letter to the city of Chicago. That was the best way to say it. Some of the sights you're going to see with the backdrop. But your point is, at the end of it all, there's going to be a race. How that turns out, we'll find out. But I don't know how you can change things if you don't try things and do new things. And you got to tip your cap to NASCAR. They've been doing that a lot lately.
They have. And I always say you can't get a home run if you're afraid to swing the bat. And NASCAR is not afraid to swing the bat and strike out. And they're not always going to have, they're not always going to be successful. It's not going to be a 100% ratio of great things they try, but they tried it. And, there's a lot, when Eldora came on the schedule for the Truck Series, 10 years ago, everybody was clamoring, oh, we got to see the Cup cars in dirt. We got to see the Cup cars in dirt. Now, you can argue whether Bristol is the right venue for the dirt race or not, but that Bristol spring race on the concrete wasn't drawing people, and it was not what it should be. And so if people are going to if you're going to get some buzz to that event again by putting dirt on there, then go for it. At least try it. And they tried it, and whether it was a success or not depends on your viewpoint, but I don't think it was a failure. It wasn't a home run, but I think it was probably a double, at least a single. And so that's okay. And I think Chicago's got the opportunity to be very unique and very special. And I hope the racing itself delivers, but you have to look at it separately from what else is going on with this event, because it's just not about the racing. It is truly an event.
One of the things that we've spent a lot of time in the last month talking about is threading the needle between the old school fan, the legacy fan that felt like the sport maybe left them behind with some of these things we talked about here, Jordan, and the changes, and trying to find that new fan. Well, I contend this last month of May, if you're a legacy fan, you should feel pretty good. You had a throwback weekend at Darlington where the history of the sport was on display, as it well should have been, the 75th anniversary of NASCAR. You went back to a racetrack, and quite frankly, there were so many people clamoring to go back to North Wilkesboro, but there were a lot of people that were also like, whoa, what if the racetrack comes up? What if it falls apart? That kind of thing. There was some consternation there. But you had a month in the rearview mirror where the old school NASCAR fan, I would think, should feel that you were very well served. Now, on the other side of it, we're going to do something brand new. And I've been saying this over and over again. 80% of the people that are going to buy tickets for the Chicago race never been to a NASCAR race before. I have my built-in focus group here of my daughter, who's a sophomore in college, a nephew, and a couple nieces who are also in college. No offense. They have not asked me to go to a NASCAR race in the last 3 or 4 years. They damn well want to be at Chicago for the street circuit race because of everything you just said. So the balance between the two, I think, is there. And if a new fan seeks out the series the next week, that's, in my opinion, to your baseball analogy, a big home run for NASCAR if it happens. Absolutely.
And I agree with everything you said there. And I think you made a really good point. And it's something I've said before as well, is that the past 3 weeks, when you've gone races at Darlington, North Wilkesboro, and Charlotte, that's as old school NASCAR as you get. And NASCAR delivered great races there, are races that you would associate with their tracks. And so that's great. And now you're going to try something out of the box and different. And the beauty of this is because you have 38 races, you can offer a little bit of something to everybody. And I think that's the nice thing about the schedule. For so long, NASCAR schedule, especially in the summer, was just so, frankly, mundane. It was boring. You know, no offense to the Michigans and the Poconos and the New Hampshires. Like, it was like you go to Michigan twice, you go to Pocono twice, you're going to New Hampshire and Kentucky. And then you throw the Brickyard in there, which unfortunately the Brickyard didn't always deliver, but it was kind of lumped in with a bunch of races that felt kind of the same. And it was just this long stretch of tedious stuff that just, frankly, did not capture your attention. I don't think that's the case anymore. Now you come off a great weekend in the 600, which preceded the North Wilkesboro All-Star Race, which was a phenomenal event. And now you've got a relatively new race in Gateway, which is a great new market that seems to be really embracing this, followed by your annual stop to Sonoma, which usually delivers pretty good event. And then you just look at this and you got Nashville, and then you've got Chicago. And it's like, there's nothing about this summer stretch where you look at it and you're going, you know what, this doesn't excite me. This is a pretty good slate of races this summer. And it's unique because you've got road courses. You got a short track at Richmond. You've got a super speedway now at Atlanta. Like, there is a little bit of everything for everyone, and that's a good thing.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Gateway because we're going to talk a lot about that, obviously, on the show today. But this is only the second time the Cup Series has been there. Obviously, last year was the very first time, which I thought was a pretty entertaining race between what was going on with Denny Hamlin and Ross Chastain. And at the end of it all, Joey Logano and Kyle Busch had a great battle. I've been going there pretty much since it opened, the first Xfinity Series race back in the 90s, and then there were some IndyCar races there. And I always felt like this would be a good venue for the Cup Series, but at the time, I felt like maybe the Midwest is a little oversaturated, quite frankly. We had Chicagoland Speedway here, 2 races at Kansas Speedway. Last year's race was a sellout, Jordan, for the Cup Series, and my understanding is they are just a few tickets shy of the same thing on Sunday. And so, again, I think it's another opportunity here, another example, to your point, variety, and a racetrack that is in a market that obviously supports it, which is, number one, a good thing. But number two, just it's not a racetrack that you see really anywhere else. It's very unique. So to me, going to Gateway, Worldwide Technology Raceway, was a big hit for NASCAR. And I could see this being there for some time. Those folks down there, Curtis Francois and his crew, they do a really good job. Chris Blair, I think this has been a really good idea to bring the Cup Series there, and I look forward to going down there again this weekend.
Oh, 100%. St. Louis is a sports town. They embrace sports, whether it's, stick and ball sports or motorsports, and they have done it with this. And that it is a near sellout, and it's probably going to be a sellout again. You would figure they'd probably get some walk-ups on Sunday and make that official. Is a good thing, and it shows you that first year enthusiasm that it has, which most new events have, is real, and it carried over to year number 2, and that's a good thing. And you go back to last year's race, it was a fine race. It wasn't the most exciting race. It wasn't the worst race. It was perfectly acceptable, as I like to say. And so I look at this and say, this is good. This is a unique track in a fun market that differentiates itself. And I think that's the big thing too, is you have to have differences. You can't go to the same type of tracks. And for a long time, the schedule was filled with intermediate 1.5-mile racetracks, which was just way too many. And now we've broken that up a little bit. And now we're going to a very unique little over 1 mile racetrack that, frankly, I mean, there's some similarities with Phoenix and some other Trax tracks, but really this is still a very unique track, and that's a good thing. And there isn't market saturation now, or oversaturation, because you still have 2 races at Kansas, but you don't have a race at Kentucky. You've only got 1 race at Michigan. You kind of spread things out a little bit. They're not on top of each other, back to back, that kind of thing. It's a good thing, and I really believe that this event, if it can continue to deliver on the racetrack, and it seems like they're delivering off the racetrack, is a good way to kind of kick off the summer, of coming off that spring stretch, which is kind of old school traditional NASCAR in a lot of respects, and now you're going into a summer stretch, and that starting in St. Louis and beginning that kind of up until the playoffs start in Darlington is a great way to do it.
All right, well, we're going to preview the weekend at Worldwide Technology Raceway. We've got a Craftsman Truck Series race tomorrow, and then we've got the Cup race on Sunday afternoon. Portland International Raceway, we'll have an Xfinity Series race on Saturday. We'll have that in our weekend preview as well. Tino Patino will be by with his best bets. He'll get you set for the racing weekend. We have had all this chase problem this week with all these suspensions and penalties. We haven't even been able to touch the power ranking, so we'll have Pistol Pete's power rankings, and Jordan and I will bat that around coming up in our second hour. We'll have our Friday 4, one story we're watching for this weekend, either in Portland or down in St. Louis. Going to get some news about the Garage 56 program. Of course, that's happening for the 24 Hour of Le Mans, and Justin Fantazzi will be here from Goodyear, so we'll get the tire story from Justin about that. We'll have Adam Alexander from NASCAR on Fox. I know you spent some time with the NASCAR on Fox crew down there in a very soggy setting on Saturday with the drivers only telecast, and Double A will come by and he'll preview the weekend. He'll be doing the Portland race, obviously, but he'll give us the weekend in Gateway. We've got the Wizard of Oz. We'll give you our fantasy lineups, picks, and prop bets. And now on the other side of the coin, sometimes Jordan is here to judge. Today he will be a participant in Monday headlines today. And you told us you were workshopping, so you fit right in with us because we workshop pretty much all week long. So welcome to the club.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Look forward to that. You can join in 866 Pit Lane, 866-748-5263. You also hit us up on Twitter at SiriusXM NASCAR, hashtag TMD NASCAR. Driver to Crew Chatter lets you hear the Cup Series race and the in-car radios of your favorite teams. This week's preview is brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Oil changes, brakes, tires, and more. What your car needs all under one roof. That's a job for Jiffy. You can hear Joey Logano on Sirius 136, XM 380, online at 980. William Byron, Sirius 137, XM 381, online at 981. And Ryan Blaney, Sirius 138, XM 382, online at 982. All those channels go live Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time.